Hey everybody, welcome to Vince on a Monday. We've got a big show for you today. The Jeffrey Epstein saga, it is reaching a new chapter. As President Trump says, okay, you want to play the Epstein game? Let's play the Epstein game. I've got the details ahead for you, a big program. We'll also explore what are the chances that the Russiagate perpetrators face justice. Well, according to a top official in the Trump administration, you ready for this? 100%. That doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room. 100% is pretty certain. I've got more details on that coming up. Sean Davis will join us. Another big program. Glad to have you with us. The best audience anywhere on this edition of Vince. Hey, let me tell you something right now, though. The Fed just dropped interest rates again. They did. And that's really great news for American homeowners. If you are feeling overwhelmed and thinking about the upcoming holidays, there's really no better time than now to get your finances in order. It's hard to think about those holidays when everything's really expensive and your credit cards are already pushed to the max. And with rates dropping now, it is the time to pay off that debt. American Financing is helping homeowners access the equity in their home for instant savings. They're saving people just like you an average of $800 a month. And many people are seeing rates in the low fives. That's a huge game changer compared to those sky-high credit cards. And if you're starting today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you extra breathing room for the holidays. And this costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, so don't wait. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. That's American Financing, 888-879-6460. That's 888-879-6460. AmericanFinancing.net/Vince. All right. It is great to see everybody here. Thank you. Hope you all had a very nice weekend. The fall is a wonderful time of year. Got to spend some time outdoors playing sports, hanging out with the family. I played a little pickup basketball this weekend. Isaac is a basketball player. He's sitting here in studio with me. I played basketball this weekend, and I realized that my body is not built for that. Not anymore. I've got so many random injuries all over my body, which made me, you know what's weird? It made me want to do it more. I was like, I got to get back out there. So more pickup basketball maybe in my future. It was a lot of fun. Okay, let's get into some of the news of the weekend, which I'm chortling about. I'm belly laughing about because it is so wonderful. You know, Democrats have gone all in on this Jeffrey Epstein stuff. They're like, oh, this will take down Trump. Let's distract everybody from how terrible we are and how great Trump is by talking about Jeffrey Epstein all the time. Okay, perfect. You do that. Let's see how that works out for you. And we're finding out more and more about these Democrats. Remember, last week, they tried to release a couple of emails that they heavily redacted to imply that Donald Trump was guilty of something. He wasn't guilty of anything. In fact, the people that they were referencing under the redactions had already exonerated President Trump. They'd already declared that, no, President Trump wasn't guilty of anything. President Trump didn't hurt me. I'm not aware that he hurt anybody else. I never saw him hurting anybody. So, obviously, everything that keeps coming out and exonerating the president, saying the guy's fine. He comes out perfect in this story. But Democrats, not so much. So Republicans released a huge tranche of Jeffrey Epstein's emails last week, 23,000 of them. And so going over the next few days, we had the chance to dig through them and take a look at, okay, what kind of emails are in here? And boy, oh boy, are they interesting. Because they keep showing us that Democrats are the ones who have a lot to be worried about within these Jeffrey Epstein emails and files. In fact, did you know that Jeffrey Epstein was colluding with a Democrat member of the House to destroy Donald Trump? Were you aware of this? Was this information out there everywhere prior to last week? Well, no, it wasn't at all. But thanks to the work of House Republicans, thanks to the transparency by the Republican Party, we now know quite a bit more. In fact, there's a woman by the name of Stacey Plaskett. She is the congresswoman, the delegate for the Virgin Islands, who is a Democrat, who in 2019, during a congressional hearing with Michael Cohen, that would be President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, Stacey Plaskett was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during the hearing. In fact, Epstein was coaching her in terms of what questions she should be asking during the hearing. Amazing. So here we go. Let me take you through this. I want you to be able to hear all this. Here is this is a video. Now, this is what I'm about to show you is a video from the Washington Post. I want to credit the Washington Post because this weekend they did real journalism for the first time in a long time. The Washington Post did real journalism. What they did was they got the emails and they were able to figure out exactly where Jeffrey Epstein was sending text messages to Stacey Plaskett during the hearing. And so every time Plaskett is looking down to her phone as she's sitting on the dais and she's typing something into the phone or reading her phone, the Washington Post synced up the text messages and Stacey Plaskett's interactions in order to show that she was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during the hearing. Take a look. Here's the Washington Post syncing up the video of the texts and the actual hearing, 2019. Here it is.
Obama was president of the United States.
Are you chewing? Asks Jeffrey Epstein.
Neighborhood in Chicago. He
Not anymore, she
that
responds.
Only black people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the
secrets,
says Jeffrey Epstein.
In a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested
Rona?
you're going to review that.
Says Stacey Plaskett.
Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question,
Quick,
you
I'm
helped
up
out
next.
The
Is that an
campaign,
acronym?
Or
She
were
texts.
involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today. It was your idea for the campaign dating back to 2011.
That's his assistant,
Is that
says
accurate,
Jeffrey
yes or
Epstein.
no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump Organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
Uh-huh.
The
You got to
Trump
quickly give us
Organization.
as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
As Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is the Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his. And
Good
she's
work, says Jeffrey Epstein. 2 minutes
involved
later.
in a lot that went on.
Whoa. Isn't that great? I mean, it's not great that she's doing that. It's not great that Jeffrey Epstein was handwriting questions for members of Congress. That's not great at all. But isn't that great? So you get a chance to see the video. It's all synced up. Jeffrey Epstein texting with this Democrat member of Congress as he is colluding with Democrats. Democrats, I mean, to be clear, are colluding with him to try and hurt Donald Trump using Michael Cohen as their vehicle for doing that. The New York Post has a piece on that this weekend. Jeffrey Epstein was feeding questions to Representative Stacey Plaskett during a 2019 congressional hearing and giving her real-time help on how to damage President Trump's reputation. Newly released documents show. These texts, which were first reported by the Washington Post, show that the convicted pedophile was pontificating with Plaskett during a February 27, 2019 House Oversight Committee hearing in which the then former president's ex-attorney Michael Cohen testified about Trump's alleged payments to mistresses to silence stories before the 2016 election. Trump has vehemently denied all the allegations. In the text messages, Epstein appeared to be watching on television while Cohen brought up former Trump executive assistant Rona Graff in his testimony. Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the secrets, Epstein texted, misspelling Graff's first name. Rona, responded Plaskett. She's a non-voting delegate representing the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's his assistant, Epstein replied. And they go They go on and on and on here. So she's coordinating with the guy. Now, you'll know that the Virgin Islands is the source, the scene of the crime. It's the scene of Jeffrey Epstein's home and Little St. James. And apparently he had a great relationship with the woman who was running the operation. He's a campaign donor to her. He gave her money so that she could get that seat as the Democrat delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands. And as a result, he was calling the shots for Stacey Plaskett. She was his puppet. He was the puppet master. And when was the last time Stacey Plaskett mentioned all of this? When was the last time she disclosed that she had this intimate relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, that Epstein got to write her questions? Never, actually. Stacey Plaskett kept it quiet. She never told anybody anything about this. And so Plaskett declined to comment on this story this weekend until after the Washington Post published it. And then they've released a statement saying the following. Now get this. Of course, she's pretending like, oh, he's a bad man. I really don't want anything to do with him. Here we go. During the hearing, Congresswoman Plaskett received texts from staff, constituents, and the public at large. Yeah, right. Yeah, you have her number? Does everybody in the Virgin Islands have her number? What a bunch of garbage. Offering advice, support, and in some cases, partisan vitriol, including from Epstein. Oh, now it's partisan vitriol that Epstein was sending. Now she's dismissing it. I don't know. She certainly seemed perfectly content having Jeffrey Epstein write the questions. Quote, as a former prosecutor, she welcomes information that helps her get at the truth and took on the GOP that was trying to bury the truth. The Congresswoman has previously made clear her long record combating sexual assault and human trafficking, her disgust over Epstein's deviant behavior, and her support for his victims. What a load of horseshit. This woman knew the guy was already a convicted sex criminal by the time she's engaging in these text messages. She's full of garbage. She is not actually standing up for women. Garbage. She's coordinating with the sex offender. She's letting him write the questions. You ever sit back and think to yourself, how stupid can these Democrat questions be? Who's writing these questions? Well, it turns out in the case of at least some of these Democrats, Jeffrey Epstein was writing the questions. Amazing. Just amazing. It's a case of never-ending projection. They accuse Donald Trump of doing the very thing that they're doing. Donald Trump isn't in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. Stacey Plaskett was. Amazing. The Virgin Islands delegate vowed to part ways in July of 2019 with $8,100 in campaign donations that the convicted pedophile gave to her after initially saying she planned to keep the cash. Yeah. Well, the upside to all of this, if there is any upside, she's a delegate, so she's a non-voting member of Congress. And one of the funniest things ever is that all the delegates that are in Congress, they really hate when you say that they're non-voting members, which they are. If you refer to them as delegate, it drives them crazy. They always want to be known as Congresswoman. I'm Congresswoman Plaskett. No, you're Delegate Plaskett. And you shouldn't even be in any capacity sitting there in Congress. But there she is. There she is. So I can't wait for more of these. But Stacey Plaskett caught texting with a kid diddler. And there you go. There you go. That's the news this weekend out of the Democrats. Thank you to the Washington Post for doing that. That is, by the way, that sync up of the video and the text messages. That's definitely something. Conservative media should have been all over that, but that's great that the Washington Post landed it first. Good for them. I'd like to see more of that, please. Byron York has a great piece up this weekend in a different Washington publication, the Washington Examiner, saying that Jeffrey Epstein really hated Trump. He really hated him. This gets back to the left making all these accusations that somehow Trump is in bed with Epstein. No, Epstein loathed Trump. Byron York's piece is that Jeffrey Epstein had deep resentment toward Donald Trump. He said there's no doubt that Epstein thought that he was a very smart guy. According to one associate, quote, he always thought he was the smartest person in the room. Another said Epstein, quote, thought he was smarter than the next guy. In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to procurement of a minor for prostitution. I saw Megyn Kelly saying recently, that's not possible, right? A minor can't be a prostitute. This is statutory rape. That's rape, what's happening to a child. His defense asked for leniency based on his, quote, unique intellect at the time. Someone with such high regard can be deeply disturbed if a friend or associate or a former associate or friend achieves more, makes more money, and rises higher up society's ladder than the person who feels he's the smartest guy in the room. So Epstein, basically what Byron York is saying is Epstein was ticked off that Donald Trump was president of the United States, that he had this massively successful career in media, and that he became president of the United States. And that really ticked off Jeffrey Epstein because Epstein thought very highly of himself and was upset that Donald Trump was achieving so much. Epstein began to try and regain his status by casting himself as, quote, the ultimate Trump translator, the ultimate Trump translator, and he began writing to various people, including former Treasury Secretary, Harvard President Lawrence Summers, Larry Summers, in May of 2017. That's Obama's Treasury Secretary, saying, your world does not understand how dumb Trump really is. Oh, May of 2017. So Epstein is, at the time, as we well know now, was trying to rig the election. He was trying to interfere to stop Donald Trump from becoming president of the United States. Far from being Donald Trump's friend, he was his sworn enemy, it turns out. Trump is truly stupid, Epstein said. Catherine Rumler, the former Obama White House counsel, said Trump is truly stupid. Epstein replied with a one-word answer, duh. In an exchange with New York Times reporter Landon Thomas, Epstein wrote that Trump was, quote, evil beyond belief, and that he, Epstein, had tried to warn the world about his former friend. Quote, I told everyone from day one, Epstein wrote. I know how dirty Donald is, Epstein wrote to Rumler. That's the Obama official. Look at all these people. They're all communicating with a pedophile well after it's been established that he's a pedophile. He's a registered sex offender at that point. He said, quote, my guess is that non-lawyers and New York business people have no idea. Then Epstein boasted to an unknown recipient in December of 2018, quote, I'm the one able to take him down. Uh-huh. Meanwhile, Epstein was exchanging long emails with advisor Michael Wolff. That's the author, the fabulist, the magazine writer, in which Wolff offered Epstein counsel on trying to damage Trump, blackmail Trump, and possibly run him out of office. The emails suggest, CNN writes, that Trump remained a fixation for Epstein, as he's frequently mentioned numerous times over a span of nearly a decade, including long after their friendship ended. Yeah. Byron points to, Elon Musk. Remember earlier this year when Elon said that Trump was in the Epstein files? When Elon was fighting with Trump, he said, Trump's in the Epstein files. Byron says, well, of course Trump is in the Epstein files. He's all over this set of Epstein files because he was so deeply in Epstein's head. Trump's going to be in other Epstein files too, because Epstein could not stop thinking and talking about him. Yeah. So, in other words, basically, Jeffrey Epstein had decided, including in the 2016 election, that his path back to any sort of mainstream acceptance would be the destruction of Donald Trump. That if only he can bring the goods to destroy Donald Trump, that he could get back in the good graces of the Democrats, people like Hillary Clinton, earn his way back into the upper echelons of society and regain the political capital that he had lost by being, what was it again? A pedophile. Yeah, that was his plan. So how did he deliver? He didn't. He never had the goods on Trump. President Trump always had the goods on Epstein, actually. President Trump presented every last piece of information he was aware of about Jeffrey Epstein. He supported the attorneys who were looking to take Epstein down. The attorneys who represented the girls who were abused by Jeffrey Epstein said Donald Trump was their greatest help ever in terms of going after this guy. He kicks him out of Mar-a-Lago for being a pervert. The track record is super clear here. And the story is the exact opposite of the one that the Democrats tell. The Democrats are in bed with Jeffrey Epstein and people like Stacey Plaskett. And Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump. He was doing everything he could to destroy him. And yet he failed time and time and time again. And one last piece for you here in terms of the Epstein situation and the extent to which that guy hated Trump. Jeffrey Epstein's former lawyer is a guy called David Schoen. He's one of the lawyers who represented Jeffrey Epstein. And he posted the following last night. That would be Sunday night to X. He said this: if Jeffrey Epstein had any dirt on Donald Trump, he would have had great leverage in the criminal case against him at the time he died. The fact that he unequivocally said he had none ought to shut down the claims, the false claims, otherwise. But facts are no obstacle to political attacks. In the first batch of emails recently exposed, the New York Times and others implied inappropriate conduct by Trump at Epstein's home. But then it was disclosed that the young woman at issue was Ms. Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre. She swore under oath nothing inappropriate with Trump. So now you have Epstein's attorney coming out and going, look, if this guy had the goods on Trump, he would have released him. That would have been all the leverage he could possibly have used. But he never did because he never had it. And that leads us to President Trump's reaction to all of this. President Trump has decided that he would like to release everything now. He's tired of this hoax. He's gone for months saying, let's stop talking about this. It's a massive distraction. But Democrats couldn't leave well enough alone. So President Trump has a new plan. Okay, how about this? You want an investigation? You want every document released? Well, guess what? You've got an investigation, and every document's going to be released. Have fun with that, Democrats. More information on that ahead on this edition of Vince. Hey, I've been using the Bone Charge infrared sauna blanket. I have. My wife's been using the red light face mask ever since they sent them to us. We can't recommend them enough. I first turned to that sauna blanket to help with muscle recovery and detoxification. It's been a game changer in my life. Easy to use. I just wrap myself up, let the infrared heat work its magic. It's created a huge difference for me in how I relax and rejuvenate and how I feel afterward. That red light face mask, Allison loves it. She uses it to improve her skin's texture, reduce inflammation, and she has seen fantastic results. It is like having a mini spa treatment right in our home. It's currently the Bone Charge holiday sale right now. Can you believe it? The holiday sale has arrived, so you can save a massive 25% off. Just head to bonecharge.com. That's BONcharge.com and save 25% with you're going to use the promo code here. Do we have a code here? We have a code, right, fellas? It says 25% off code it's automatically added to your order. Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, there's no code. It's perfect. It's automatically added to your order. Just go to bonecharge.com. Your 25% off code's automatically added to the order. The sale's going to end on the 31st of December of this year. The 31st of December, that's the end. So hurry. Don't miss this massive chance to save big on your favorite Bone Charge products. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Thank you to Bone Charge. All right. So let me see here. Marcia Tia goes, more ads? Yeah. How do you think this show operates, Marcia? Our great sponsors keep it running. Thank you for being here, Marcia. You help us stay running, too. Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, let's talk about what the president is saying about all this now. So on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, on Friday, President Trump finally had enough. He said, you know what? You want an investigation? You got an investigation. And here we go. Here's what the president said. Now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all their other failures, I will be asking the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with, you ready for the names? This is fun. Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine, okay, what was going on with them and him. This is another Russia scam with all the arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein on his island. Stay tuned. Now, that's what I like to hear. This is what I like to hear. So the president directing the attorney general to get on this. Pam Bondi said immediately on Friday, I'm on it, Mr. President. She's already assigned a U.S. attorney to begin digging into this. That's out of New York. Wonderful stuff. And then we get this edition this weekend. On Sunday, the president also announced via Truth Social. This guy loves his Truth Social, doesn't he? On Sunday, he announced that he is now calling for all of the records to be made public. He said, as I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein and are now looking at various Democrat operatives. Oh, there are those names again. Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, and their relationship to Epstein. Throw Stacey Plaskett in there, would you? And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, our victory on reducing inflation, delivering historic tax cuts, bringing prices down, gaining trillions of dollars of investment to the country, rebuilding our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegals, ending men and women's sports, stopping the transgender for everybody, and so much more. Look, nobody cared about Epstein when he was alive. And if the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. Some members of the Republican Party are being used. We can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. I love it. I love it. On this issue, I've been consistent all along. I totally agree with the president. The Democrats have tried to cook this up into some sort of distraction. My attitude has been, hey, we've all wanted, meaning Trump supporters, we wanted maximum transparency on this from the beginning. Why not just rip the Band-Aid off and get all that stuff out? Do it quick, and then there is no scandal except for the one that's imposed on Democrats by virtue of their own behavior. Just release all this stuff. And the Washington Post said a couple months ago, even they acknowledge that if there was something damaging about Donald Trump, it would have come out. It would have been leaked to the Washington Post by the Biden Justice Department. It's all a bunch of nonsense. And so here's the president actually telling a terrible reporter, I'm not sure who this is, but cut 4, here's the president standing outside Air Force One this weekend, telling a, quote, terrible reporter the Democrats have been using this as nothing more than a distraction from his many successes. Watch.
Fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration. So a guy like Massey, his poll numbers are showing he's at 6% approval rating right now. And we call him Rand Paul Jr. because he never votes for the Republican Party. So they're using Jeffrey Epstein as a deflection from the tremendous success that we're having as a party.
They're doing it. You're a terrible reporter. I don't know who is that. Well, but once you stop taking the abuse, you're like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do this job anymore. Trump's just like, you're terrible. You're terrible. You're the worst. You're terrible. Pretty funny. Really, really remarkable stuff. So that's fantastic news. And so the president has authorized, not only authorized, but demanded an investigation in all of this. He's demanding maximum transparency, and we're off to the races. Now, these are not the only investigations that the Justice Department is undertaking right now. There's a lot. The FBI director, Kash Patel, was just on Maria Bartiromo's show this weekend, and he was talking about some investigations that are being undertaken right now, including into the January 6th pipe bomber, which is really important. As you and I both know, Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, has been for years obsessed with getting to the bottom of this, and rightfully so. Who was the person who laid pipe bombs outside of the RNC and the DNC in the lead up to the events of January 6, 2021? Getting to the bottom of that's been one of the most important missions for Dan. In fact, as he arrived, the big thing that he did starting earlier this year was begin to work with Ed Martin, the head of the weaponization subgroup, to get to the bottom of this. Of course, over the last week, there's been a lot of attention on the January 6th pipe bomber because of the work of Steve Baker over at The Blaze. He asserted that they had a suspect, a belief that a former Capitol police officer was the one who planted the bombs. That has, of course, been the subject of a lot of debate over the course of the last week. And we read a statement from Dan over, was it Friday, I believe, talking about all of this, that they continue to be digging into this very thing and to be careful of media reporting that gets it wrong, was his warning. Although he didn't directly reference Steve Baker and The Blaze, he was clearly alluding to the conversation around identifying the pipe bomber. Kash Patel on with Maria Bartiromo this weekend was asked about all of this. Here's cut 1, Kash talking about the latest in that investigation. Listen.
As it relates to major investigations of public importance like the pipe bomber, again, I say, stay tuned. We reviewed every single investigation of public consequence, reopened them, reevaluated them, because we feel it cannot go untouched. We are not going to let these things lay by and allow the fake news media to run roughshod over us. Our indictments speak powerfully in court. If you don't believe us, just look at the response that the Eastern District of Virginia under Lindsey Halligan did to James Comey, and look at the notes and publication of evidence. That's the type of material we have, but we have to safeguard our prosecutions because the ultimate accountability is with the verdict in a jury room.
All right, so the FBI not giving up on that story, which I didn't expect they would, and thankfully promising a stay-tuned situation with the January 6th pipe bomber saga. Of course, you and I both hope they come to a rapid conclusion to that because it's long overdue. What has it been? Over 4 years now, almost going on 5 years in January. It's more than past time for us to solve that one. That one seems really important, and I know Dan is very interested in getting to the bottom of that. And then in terms of accountability for, for Russiagate in general, we've been talking about how there is very likely to be charges brought in Florida, potentially in January, for a grand conspiracy by all of the people who are involved in really subverting the country, using their power tyrannically to hurt the president of the United States and his voters. Here is Kash Patel, Cut 5, talking with Maria this weekend about the chances that we have that there will be accountability for Russiagate. Pay attention to this. Watch.
And as it goes for things like Russiagate, Maria, again, maybe no one better than you has covered it. And look, I lived it. I was weaponized as a victim against a weaponization, politicization of law enforcement, including at the FBI, by former senior leadership there. And I was the one that ran and uncovered the Russiagate hoax and conspiracy back on my House Intel days. I can't talk about ongoing investigations, but I think you've seen reporting in the media and reflections as to what's going on. We will not allow anyone who participated in the Russiagate conspiracy or those who improperly and illegally, in my opinion, spied on me, members of Congress, and even members of the media for a political end state to be left unturned.
In other words, we're not giving up on this. Okay, so what are the chances? Give me a number, Cash. What are the chances that we see real accountability? And be as honest as you can. What are we hearing?
Well, by the way, Comey is asking for all of the charges to be dropped right now, as you know. So the audience wants to know if we're ever going to see accountability, Director. And I know that there's a limited amount you can say about this with regard to what happens next. There was a criminal referral for John Brennan. Do you believe we will see accountability?
Yes, 100%.
100%. Well, that's a high standard. We're going to hold him to it. He did heavily hint, by the way, at the media reporting about the grand conspiracy charges. I mean, they're virtually saying out loud grand conspiracy charges are coming without saying it out loud. That's good news. I'll take more indictments. And like I've told you before, let me reiterate something. James Comey's been indicted. Letitia James has been indicted. John Bolton's been indicted. LaMonica McIver's been indicted. Kat Abugazala's been indicted. Have you seen FBI officials indicted? There are people who are being indicted. I know the media don't talk about it that much, or if they do, they say that Trump is abusing his power. He's not. This is justice. It's on display. They should be indicted. That's exactly right. With more to come, 100%. I'll take it. That's exactly what I want. More ahead on this edition of Vince. Sean Davis will join us in just a moment. But first, this time of year, it's the one time of year that the Birch Gold Group gives away free gold with every qualifying purchase. Oh, that's right. For Black Friday, when you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, Birch Gold will send free gold to your home for every $20,000 purchased. Look, gold started this year around $2,600 an ounce. But you see, by October, it was over $4,000 an ounce. Why is that? It's been global uncertainty. 2025 has been defined by trade wars and central banks pulling from the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency and military tension that's been building. Gold thrives in times of uncertainty. And if you are looking to diversify your savings, well, Birch Gold can help you. Plus, now through November 28th, you can get free gold with a qualifying purchase. Just text my name, Vince, to 989898 to claim your eligibility and for a free info kit on gold. But your opportunity for free gold with purchase ends on November 28th. So don't wait. Text Vince to the number 989898 for full details. Message and data rates may apply. Thank you to Birch Gold. And thank you to Blackout Coffee, the coffee that I start my day with every day. Proudly the official coffee of all of us here at Silverlock. There's a reason for that. It's bold. It's unapologetic. It's America First coffee. It's roasted fresh right here in the United States. It's not grocery store junk. Blackout Coffee delivers rich, high-quality roasts that actually taste like freedom. And now you can set it and you can forget it with auto refill and recurring delivery. This means no more running out, no more watered-down backups, just your favorite roast delivered fresh on your schedule. Pick your favorite roast, how often you want it delivered. And not only do you get a discount, but you also get double the rewards and free shipping to your doorstep. Blackout Coffee is delicious. I know that. I drink coffee black, and I drank Blackout Coffee for the first time, and I said, whoa, this is great coffee. And I've been drinking it ever since. I love Blackout. Here's what you do. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Use the code Vince. That's VINCE, and you'll get 20% off your first order. Whether you're into bold, dark roasts, flavored coffee, or even instant, Blackout's got your back. Real coffee, no compromise. Blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Get yours now. Blackout Coffee. Thank you to Blackout. All right. Joining me now, one of my favorites. Sean Davis is the CEO and co-founder of the mighty website, The Federalist. Sean, it is so good as always to talk to you today, sir.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with kind of everything that's transpired this weekend as it relates to a couple of things. But first and foremost, this Jeffrey Epstein thing. It seems like the president has taken a couple of different tacks here, because his view is like, look, we've had a very successful administration, and I know what this looks like. The left is always trying to cook up distractions from my success to bog me down in other types of nonsense. What do you make of the president's latest move to say, okay, you want investigations, you want transparency? Fine. I'm ordering a full-blown investigation by the Justice Department, and I'm telling House Republicans, just dump everything out in the public so we can get back to business.
Yeah, I think it's good. This is what should have been done, 9 months ago. It's what should have been done from the beginning. Personally, I think the AG should have tapped a special prosecutor to just look into it, handle all the declassifications, make sure that grand jury materials and stuff like that are protected. Because remember, there's still an open case. There's still an open appeal for Ghislaine Maxwell. So like you don't want that thing to end up getting screwed up by releasing stuff. But yeah, I think he's on the right track here. I think had this been done 9 months ago, 6 months ago, it would have saved him and a lot of other people in the administration a lot of heartache. But better late than never.
Yes, I mean, look, I think it's so obvious to so many people, and I think to you and to me, that if there was actually some sort of damning information about President Trump, there's no question that the Biden administration would have leaked it to the Washington Post or one of their other media allies during the intervening time. None of that ever happened. In fact, the public record on Trump's exchanges with Epstein acquit him really nicely of any sort of noxious behavior. Instead, he comes out kind of as the hero of the story, who's like constantly helping out the authorities, helping out the defense attorneys, helping people, kicking Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. So it does feel like, to the extent that President Trump's been involved here, he has created a little bit of a needless headache for himself. He could have just been completely transparent right from the get-go.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't remember which publication had it. It might have been the New York Times, where they like breathlessly reported Trump knew about Epstein's problems with the girls. Like, well, yes. He kind of had a famous like breakup and falling out with Epstein over Epstein being a creep. So yeah, of course he knew about it. Now, I don't know if he knew the extent of the underage stuff or whatever, but he was clearly creeped out by Epstein. That's why I banned him from Mar-a-Lago. I mean, these were guys who were in the same social circles. Yeah. In New York and Palm Beach. And Trump, if anything, was the canary in the gold mine. He was the guy who was warning everyone else that this guy was a creep.
And everyone's still lying about it, by the way. Like, so for instance, Democrats put out this email last week where they redacted the name Virginia Giuffre to imply that President Trump was some sort of pervert or whatever. And then when you find out, the name underneath is Virginia Giuffre, who exonerated President Trump, who said, no, he wasn't guilty of anything with me or anybody else that I'm aware of. I just read this morning, Sean, I'm constantly kind of reading up on those stuff. I read the New York Times this morning. They alluded to the email. They didn't even reference that it was Virginia Giuffre. They're still lying to their audience today, despite the fact that we know all of these things. So it's no wonder the president keeps saying this is nothing more than a hoax.
Yeah, and I think it's an important thing that people on the right need to finally internalize is that the left, whether they're professional Democrats or members of Congress or people in the corporate corrupt media, the left doesn't use words like we use words. We use words because we believe they have fixed meanings and we use them in the same way all the time because we know that people who listen to us are going to interpret them in the manner that we say them. That is not how the left uses words. The left uses words to manipulate, period. And they will use them however they need. Maybe they'll leave facts out. Maybe they'll lie about facts they include. But the entire purpose is to manipulate their audience into feeling and doing what they want. This has been true for nearly forever. But we have finally started to see it like in plain contrast and clear relief with what they're doing with this thing here. They're blatantly lying by omission about what these emails show. And by the way, they know and they don't care. They don't care that they're lying, and they don't care that we know that they're lying. They're going to keep doing it because their audience will lap it up and will act the way the left wants them to.
Yes. Well, one of the upsides we've seen in recent years is that nobody trusts the media anymore, or fewer people do. So their capacity to move public opinion has diminished dramatically. We just saw it through the government shutdown. In fact, President Trump's approval rating went up during the government shutdown, and Democrats are rightly being judged negatively by the American public for their behavior. That's all great news. But in terms of what we're learning from these Epstein files as they come out, we got the emails this past week. It turns out Democrats, including sitting members of Congress, Stacey Plaskett, delegate from the Virgin Islands, was colluding with Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. Epstein was writing her questions live during a congressional hearing. Shouldn't that be a bigger deal, Sean Davis?
Yeah, I had to read that story a couple times because it was so crazy that I thought, well, this can't possibly be true. We couldn't possibly have had Jeffrey Epstein texting a woman on a congressional committee about how to ask questions to make Trump look bad. And certainly there's no way that it's somebody who had been helping him with financial shenanigans on an island somewhere. There's no way that could be true. And yet it's true. But I will tell you, as interesting as all that is, I just want an answer to one question.
Yeah.
Which intel agencies was the guy working for? Just tell us. Just tell us which intel, and it's probably more than one. There's probably 3 or 4. Just tell us, because we all know what was going on. We could probably all guess 3 of the 4 or 5. Just tell us that, and I promise you, most people will move on. It's the fact that that's being hidden that I think angers so many people. That they won't just come out and say, yeah, we think he was working for X, Y, and Z. Just tell us.
Right.
Just tell us who he was working for.
Yes, this goes back to earlier revelations that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, which is part of the reason why he was allegedly given a sweetheart deal by the U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta down in Florida all those many years ago. And to this day, nobody's really given us a clear answer on what the hell that even means, whether he was actively involved in working with the intel community, or if he was gathering blackmail on powerful people that was being used in some sort of surreptitious way by the intelligence community. We don't have any clear answers on that subject.
Yeah, and so to be clear on that issue with Acosta, that was somebody who testified that they heard Acosta say he belongs to intelligence. I believe Acosta has denied that he said that. So I think that's an important fact to be out there.
Well, actually, in fairness, I believe the expression that he gave was "Don't believe everything you read in the media." Like, he kind of gave sort of a blanket denunciation of just reflexively believing things. But if you're lawyerly enough about that, it's not quite an explicit denial of the claim.
Yeah, that's fair. And the thing is, I don't need what he said or allegedly said or third party hearsay. We can just look at who the guy was talking to and what he was doing. Like, my particular belief is that he was doing a lot of financial engineering work, some creative transactional hiding and laundering, probably for a lot of foreign governments. And as a result, my guess is they were looking the other way on his extracurricular trafficking activities. But the thing is, just tell us. Like, we're all adults. We're big boys and girls. We can handle it. I just want to know who he was working for, and then let us draw our conclusions from there.
So do you believe that President Trump's hesitancy may be wrapped up in that some of this might have been pretextual to say that this is a hoax that Democrats are trying to bog him down with, but that he's concerned about intel disclosures coming out with the Epstein revelations?
I genuinely don't know because I mean that would presuppose that he's been told everything. And I'll tell
Oh,
you,
yeah.
having covered the deep state for 10 years and watched what they do and how they manipulate leaders and how they lie to the American public and how they break laws to do whatever they want, I don't have a whole lot of faith that if they know that they've given him the whole picture.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad we've reached this phase, though. I'm glad to see the president call for prosecution here. A U.S. attorney in New York has been assigned to this case, and he's also called for transparency on all of the documents. Now saying, "Hey, go ahead and get these Republicans to vote for it." What do you know? Obviously, this has been a source of some discontent for the president, though, because he does feel like there have been members of Congress who've been playing along with Democrats here in his view, bogging him down. That include people like Thomas Massey, who pretty routinely finds himself voting against President Trump's agenda, and then also Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's received a pretty heaping helping of direct attacks from the president over the last week. What do you make of them?
Yeah, I one of the frustrations I have, and it's not just them, it's happening across the board, is this new idea from members of Congress and senators that what they really need to do is get elected so that they can become influencers and podcast hosts. I find that just absolutely insane and insulting. And like you're a member of Congress, you have real power. You have people that you are supposed to be representing who voted for you. Your job is not to go on all the podcasts and do all the influencer work. Now, I understand that I'm saying that on a podcast, but like this is my actual job. I work in the
Right.
media.
You're also
They
not a
don't.
member of Congress. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
it's this weird thing now where you have people running for Congress just so they can be influencers, and it's happening on both sides. You see it with Jasmine Crockett, Ghetto AOC. You see it with AOC herself. I see it with Massey, a little bit with Cruz, with MTG. Just go do your jobs, and if you don't want to be in Congress, that's fine. I get it. I don't want to be in Congress. It seems like a terrible job, but that's the job you signed up for. Maybe go do that job.
That's true. Although I don't want to dissuade members of Congress from coming on new media because I actually do. First of all, obviously I have a self-interest in having them on, but additionally, I am a fan of members of Congress and senators stepping forward, telling the truth, and like the Tommy Tubervilles of the world, the people who just like stand on their principles and represent them in public, and tell the people what's going on. I think there's a middle ground probably there.
Yeah. And to me, there's a difference between going on to talk about the things that you're doing, going on to build support for a legislative initiative you had or an oversight project.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I don't think that's what's happening with a lot of these folks. I don't think there's a lot of like crazy work happening in the background that they're doing, that staff are burning the midnight oil. I think a lot of it really is just attention seeking. So I'd like to see more work seeking and outcome seeking and less attention seeking.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, amen to that. I just played some audio prior to your arrival of Kash Patel, the FBI director, talking about accountability for Russiagate. And this is something that I know you and I have been seeking for a long time. A lot of people have. And he was just asked by Maria Bartiromo, what are the chances we see accountability? He said 100%. And he very heavily alluded to some media reporting suggesting that we could be seeing grand conspiracy charges imminently coming out of Florida. How encouraged are you by the reporting on this subject and the statements we're hearing from people like Kash Patel?
Well, I think it's great news, especially when you compare it to the last couple years of the first Trump administration, where we were promised big things. We had a special counsel, and then it kind of just fizzled out and turned out to be a dud. So I like what we're seeing now. The fact that James Comey, who is one of the most malicious, underhanded, dirty characters in all of modern politics. The fact that he has been indicted, I think, is really, really important. Now, will he be convicted? I don't know. I mean, because there's so many left-wing antics that happens on these juries in Northern Virginia and D.C. We saw it with the angry sandwich tosser, where you had the jury reportedly talking about wearing coordinated clothing to show their solidarity for this guy. So I don't know if we'll get convictions, but I don't think these things should be brought solely on the assumption that they'll get convictions. We saw what these people did to everyone after J6. We saw what they did to people like Carter Page and what they did to Donald Trump and the alternate electors. At some point, turnabout has to be fair play.
Yes.
At some point, the left has to know that they're going to get put through the same process if they're ever going to have any sort of circumspection about doing it to their enemies again.
You're making a point I've been making too, which is that the process is the punishment. We saw a lot of people, conservatives, go through this, whether or not it ends up in a conviction for them. So James Comey should be subjected to the same thing. He should have to pay for lawyers. He should have to go through the misery of a court process and dealing with the full weight of the federal government bearing down on him. But right now, what he's doing, and this kind of brings me to another point that I think really matters here. What he's doing is trying to disqualify Lindsay Halligan from prosecuting him. She is currently acting as the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, and he's alleging that she's not there legally. He's got a Clinton judge who is taking that claim seriously enough that Lindsay Halligan could be thrown off this case. It could be a real problem for the prosecution of James Comey. And the problem that I'm hearing from top Trump administration officials, Sean Davis, is that this is a problem all across the country. They don't have the U.S. attorneys in place to support them. They don't have judges in place to support them. And that is the product of this insane blue slip process in the United States Senate, where Adam Schiff or Mark Warner or Tim Kaine can literally veto any federal judge or U.S. attorney who President Trump wants to serve in their states. That's crazy. When are we going to do something about this, Sean? Is the Senate finally going to get some testicular fortitude and tackle that issue?
I've got bad news for you. If you're ever looking for a spine in a Republican-led U.S. Senate, you're going to be looking for a long time. I mean, I scoff a bit at all these calls to eliminate the legislative filibuster in the Senate because they eliminated the nominations filibuster. And what have Republicans there done? They were foot dragging on nominations for Trump for months and months and months. We don't have most of the U.S. attorney vacancies filled. And it's not because like these guys are, again, burning the midnight oil and they just don't have time because they're so busy. They're working like 2 and 3 days a week, maybe 6 or 7 hours a day. So I wish somebody would just kick their butts in gear and understand we have a country to save. Okay, they're out there murdering our friends. They're trying to shoot Trump in the head. They're trying to put us all in prison. They're trying to bankrupt us. Wake the F up and start doing your jobs instead of just rolling in on Tuesday and piecing out on Thursday afternoon because you got a golf game over the weekend. Like, do your jobs, U.S. Senate. Do your freaking jobs.
Yeah, no, this blue slip thing is murder, though, because if you want accountability, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. Not with this Senate in place. Because the only way that a prosecution works is if you have a fully Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney who can not only bring the charges, but see them through all the way to conviction and sentencing. We don't have that. A couple of U.S. attorneys here and there are making it through. But, like, look, we got Jeanine Pirro in D.C. Wonderful. That's great that she's in D.C. D.C. is a rigged system. So it doesn't matter that we have a U.S. attorney because the grand jury process is rigged for Democrats. The trial jury process is rigged for Democrats. The judges are rigged for Democrats. It's irrelevant that Jeanine Pirro's there, unfortunately, because Democrats have that system rigged. But there's plenty of other places in the country, the Eastern District of Virginia, where we can have a real chance at a prosecution and a conviction if only the president gets his real nominees through. And it's this blue slip that's standing in the way. It's not even it's not constitutional. It's not a matter of law. It's not even a matter of the Senate rules. It's just a tradition in the Senate. And yet it's staying in place because, Sean, as I understand it, Senate Republicans are clinging to this Pollyannish view that if they keep that system in place, then when Democrats are in power again, that they will have the same privilege in the future. That seems completely mentally ill to me.
Yeah, it's insane. It's totally delusional. And unfortunately, so I worked in the Senate for a long time. And one of the things I noticed, at least about Republican senators, is they tend to be products of the year in which they were first elected. The class that they came in with, they're kind of frozen in time there forever, like the mosquito and Amber in Jurassic Park. And they have an incredibly difficult time moving on from that. And a lot of these guys are just stuck in the 80s and 90s thinking, hey, we're all buddy-buddy. All we're arguing about is like tax rates and levies and all that. And then everything else we're good on. That's not the reality we're in anymore, because we all understand the second Dems take power again, they're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to add a bunch of new states so they can add a bunch of new blue state senators. They're going to run roughshod over the Constitution as far as they can get. They are not going to treat us to the same niceties that Republicans extend to them. And I wish Republicans, again, they're shooting our friends in the head on live streaming, and then they're laughing about it. So, like, that's the universe you live in now, Republicans. Wake up.
Yeah, no, find a pair and fight for the rest of us. I mean, President Trump has demonstrated it, and everybody else needs to catch up with this quickly, because we're running out of time. You know, we've got priority one. If they can blow through the filibuster, which, by the way, they should. It's so stupid that continues to be in the way. But if they can blow through the filibuster and get anything passed, the first thing, as far as I'm concerned, Sean, that they should pass is election integrity. Make sure that we have sound elections all across the country, because the American people deserve to have credible elections. So when they go to the ballot box, they can be assured that the person that they actually voted for, if they win, they won. If they lost, they lost. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're not an American and you can't speak English or read English, you shouldn't be voting. I don't understand how that is even remotely controversial. That is like a two foot gimme putt that we should be pushing through. And yet again, what are Republicans doing? They're taking lots of foreign trips, and they're having fun on their vacations. What are they actually doing to save the country and to make permanent a lot of these rules changes and regs and EOs that Trump has put into place? Because we want to make sure that this stuff isn't erased on day one in the next Dem administration. Go in and make this stuff permanent. I do not understand what Republicans in Congress are thinking, because right now they are careening towards something like a 30-seat loss. They are going to get bludgeoned in November, because what have they done? Trump has done a lot, but what have Republicans done? They better start making that case now and stacking W's and actually getting things done if they want people to have a reason to come out and vote for them in November.
Yeah, amen. Amen. And stop the infighting on the right. The whole thing is so crazy. Just like get back to an agenda that cares about America first, is focused entirely on the pro-America agenda, helping the president achieve everything he needs to achieve, and helping him stay focused, by the way, because that matters a great deal. You know, we heard in the last week J.D. Vance, step up to a microphone and just talk about the plight of Appalachia, talk about the plight of Americans who are dealing with communities that have been absolutely hollowed out by being sold out by Washington, D.C., and how priority one needs to and always should be taking care of those Americans, restoring the American dream so that people can say, afford health care and homes again, Sean Davis.
Oh, I know. It's insane. If you talk to anyone who's under the age of 30, they're coming out of college. A lot of them have debt. They can't find jobs. I mean, if you look at the jobless rate among people who've graduated from college in the last couple of years who are American, it is through the roof. That is a national scandal. So you have a bunch of people who can't get jobs, who did everything they were supposed to do and were told to do. They can't get jobs, so they're certainly not going to be able to get a down payment on a house. And even if they could, interest rates are still insane. And then you look at healthcare premiums. My goodness, I think I pay something like 30 or 35 grand. And just in premiums each year. For the privilege, by the way, that when I hit my insane deductible, the insurance company might pay 50 to 80% of the medical costs at that point. It is a completely broken system, broken deliberately by Obama and Democrats with Obamacare.
Yes.
So, you can't afford health care. You can't get a house. You can't get a job. Why on earth would these people ever vote for us if we can't fix those problems? Those are bare bones foundational problems for America. If you can't get Americans employed and in homes so they can raise families, what are you even doing?
This is where Congress needs to step up. It's so crazy that we're dealing with this. I hate having to talk about this because it reminds me of how shitty that Republican Party is at its core and how much better it can be. Get rid of the blue slips, get rid of the filibuster, election integrity, accountability, lower healthcare prices, stop being cowards, present a real healthcare plan to actually fix the country. A lot of that just means getting the government out of our lives. Stop making everything prohibitively expensive. Stop printing money we don't have. Stop driving up the cost of the entire economy. Stop making it so crazy to buy a house in the United States and deport tens of millions of illegal aliens, because when you have more demand placed on our economy by people who shouldn't be here, that raises prices for the rest of us. All of this stuff is common sense. And if these idiots weren't bought and paid for, we'd be smooth sailing, Sean Davis. Yet here we go, each passing day where we have to deal with this garbage and once again remind them that they have a job to do on behalf of the rest of us.
Yeah, and thankfully we have JD Vance as vice president, kind of, the next guy in waiting. He gets it. Like it's something very important to have someone from his generation and from that background as the guy next in line, because he gets it. He understands the problems. He knows how to talk about it. Unfortunately, he's in the minority in Washington, especially among Republicans, because they truly don't get it. They do this nonsense, bootstrap, work hard, and I was able to afford a house, and well, why can't you? Yeah. You want to alienate an entire generation? Keep it up with that nonsense.
That, by the way, what you just described is why the knives are out for JD Vance. If you see that anywhere, the knives are out for that reason exactly, because he rejects the corruption, the cronyism, and the establishment, and he's fighting for Americans at the individual and at just American level, and that's why they're trying to take him out. Don't let it happen. Thank you very much, Sean Davis from the Federalist. You're the best. Always appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vince. Take care.
All right, there's Sean Davis. Man, oh man. I've got a lot to get to today. I've got the big national radio show, The Vince Show. You can check out thevinceshow.com for your local radio listings, or join us on Rumble, rumble.com/Vince. We always do it live every day on Rumble. It is great to have you with us. You're the best audience anywhere. Thank you. I'm back with you tomorrow. Up next here on Rumble, Steven Crowder. Stand by for that.